Welcome to Half 2-4. Today in the show, the historic humiliation of Real Madrid, while Kylian Mbappe claims the Pichichi trophy under the wild whistling of the stands. A transfer earthquake in Manchester. Enzo Maresca officially heads City and sets up a massive cleanup, while Tottenham hijacks Savinho for 50 million euros. Also today, Manchester United is one step away from an elite double signing of Sandro Tonali and Ederson. Juventus takes Alisson Becker, and Marc-Andre ter Stegen manages to become the champion of Spain and get relegated to the Segunda in a single season. We talk about all this and much more right now. For the first time in football history, the Spain national team is heading to the World Cup without a single, can you imagine, absolutely no Real Madrid football player on board the plane. Zero. For a club that for decades was considered the backbone of La Roja, this is not just a sensation. It is a real slap in the face to the whole world from Luis de la Fuente. Let us be honest. The Madrid core is experiencing a clear degradation. Dani Carvajal was constantly treated this season and practically said goodbye to the club, while the young Dean Huijsen or Fran Garcia, although spinning in extended lists, turned out to be unnecessary for the coach. De la Fuente does not even think about making excuses. He just took the best at this moment, and Madrid did not fit in there. On the other hand, Barcelona gave the national team as many as 8 players. Even Lamine Yamal, who only by the end of May cured a serious hamstring injury, is still in the squad because they believe in him. While Catalonia purposefully raised Pau Cubarsí, Gavi, and Yamal, Florentino Perez was buying up foreign Galacticos. And here is the logical result of two philosophies. Spaniards fly to the World Cup, and Real Madrid has simply nothing to say here. And do you know what is most interesting in this Madrid chaos? The main star of the club, Kylian Mbappe, has just picked up his second consecutive Pichichi trophy, scoring 25 goals over the season in La Liga. In 2 years in Spain, the Frenchman has crazy statistics, 56 goals in 65 matches. He repeated the unique achievement of Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, who were the only ones over the last 38 years to win this title in their first 2 seasons. Like an individual space, right? But there is one nuance that breaks the whole idol. Where are the big trophies? This is where the trash begins. Over these 2 years with Mbappe, Real Madrid has not won a single major title. This season, the Blancos again shamefully finished second, falling behind Barcelona by a whole 8 points. Kylian himself once beautifully told that the team is above all for him, but real numbers scream about another story. Cristiano Ronaldo could keep quiet for half a match, but he came to El Clasico or the Champions League semifinal and scored decisive goals in bundles, literally clawing out cups for Madrid. And how many truly important goals did Mbappe score when the system of Real Madrid was cracking at the seams? 0. I think all these individual awards of the Frenchman now look like an egoistic game purely for his own statistics and with the hope of winning the Ballon d'Or. Mbappe found himself under wild and absolutely deserved criticism from the press. He does not pull the team in difficult moments, he pulls only himself. Perhaps in the summer, when Jose Mourinho heads this chaos and finds the right formula, the situation will change. But for now, we have a fact. Kylian has 2 Pichichi trophies, and Real Madrid has an empty cupboard. It is hard to argue with this. And what do you think, friends? Is Mbappe really destroying the team play of Madrid, or is he just unlucky? Write in the comments. Enzo Maresca is the new head coach of Manchester City. The Italian has already signed a long-term contract that will be valid until June 2029. Maresca returns to the structure of the Citizens, where he once worked on the staff of Pep Guardiola, but now in the role of a full-fledged boss who completely takes over control of the transfer strategy of the club. A new chapter of Manchester City begins instantly without any rolling out. And now we look at the purely tactical subtext, because Maresca is not a Guardiola number 2 at all, as many people think. What Enzo built at Chelsea, where he won 2 major trophies, the Conference League and the first Club World Cup, where he destroyed Luis Enrique himself with his flawless PSG with a score of 3-0 in the final, is fundamentally different from the sterile Madrid or Manchester control of Pep. If Guardiola suffocated opponents with endless passes horizontally to prepare a positional attack, then Maresca plays a much more aggressive and vertical football. His Chelsea came out of defense through instant overhead deliveries into free zones, using extremely fast flank transitions. Maresca does not tolerate rolling the ball around for the sake of possession percentage. He demands vertical cuts in the very first seconds after a turnover. He has already put forward a clear demand to the bosses of City. Instead of expensive media stars, buy exclusively explosive, sharp flank players and mobile midfielders who are capable of giving this wild pace. I think the invitation of Maresca is a very strong and logical step, but at the same time it is a colossal risk. Enzo perfectly knows the kitchen of the club. The management adores him, and he has already proved at Chelsea that he knows how to build winning football under conditions of wild pressure. However, replacing Guardiola is an almost impossible mission, and any slip-up by the Italian at the start of the season will cause a tsunami of critical arrows from the press. But for the entire Premier League, this is a wild marker. City is not going to give up the crown without a fight, and if Maresca quickly integrates his ideas, then it will be very uneasy for competitors again. The saga around Savinho and Tottenham officially returns to the screens. The most authoritative insider, Fabrizio Romano, blew up the transfer market with the news. The Spurs have again revived negotiations with Manchester City regarding the Brazilian winger. The first discussions have already started, and Savinho himself is maximally open to changing his club registration. Last summer, the Londoners offered crazy money for him and were one step away from completing the deal, but at the last moment, the citizens blocked the transfer. Now Tottenham has returned for its main dream, although Newcastle is also closely monitoring the situation, so the competition promises to be hot. Let us sort it out in order. Why the situation at the Etihad has cardinally changed, and why City is now ready to talk. The era of Pep Guardiola has come to an end, and after his departure, the entire well-established system of the champions begins to storm. The new manager, Enzo Maresca, launches a large-scale squad rebuilding, and according to information from insiders, Manchester City is now ready to let the Brazilian go for 50 to 60 million euros, although on Transfermarkt the market value of the guy is estimated around 40 million euros. The citizens themselves are ready to sit down at the negotiating table. For Tottenham, this is an ideal moment for an assault. Savinho is only 22 years old. He wants to stably play in the starting lineup and not be one of 5 wingers in an endless rotation. He will give the team wild speed, vertical scrambling, and unpredictability, which was catastrophically lacking all last season, while the Spurs are already calculating how to properly break down the installments for this transfer. I think this transfer can finally turn Tottenham from a club that just heroically saved itself from relegation into a real contender for European competitions. The Brazilian has a fantastic potential, and under the leadership of Roberto De Zerbi, he can reveal himself to the fullest. If the Spurs manage to beat Newcastle in this race, then the updated line of defense, along with Senesi and Robertson, backed by Savinho up front, will look extremely solid. The main thing is not to drag out negotiations until August, and not to bargain for every cent, because the Magpies will almost 100% sell Anthony Gordon in the summer, and they will need to immediately replace him. And Savinho fits perfectly here. Therefore, Tottenham needs to hurry up a lot to complete the deal as quickly as possible, while the financial fair play presses the Magpies, and they have not yet sold Gordon or Sandro Tonali, about whose transfer we will tell in more detail later. Manchester United, it seems, has finally grown tired of the chaos in the center of the field and decided to arrange a total clearing there, which by its scale risks becoming the main transfer series of England. Several authoritative sources at once, including insiders from Tottenham Web, confirmed. The Red Devils are one step away from a fantastic double signing in the defensive zone, trying to simultaneously take Ederson from Atalanta and Sandro Tonali from Newcastle. There is already a complete verbal agreement and an agreed 5-year contract with the Brazilian, and negotiations regarding the Italian have reached the finish line. Michael Carrick receives just ideal tactical tools from the management of the Devils this summer, which he is ready to use from the first day of the preseason. Let us break it down by numbers and specific facts, because this management scheme looks very well thought out. Regarding Ederson, everything is maximally transparent. The 25-year-old midfielder refused to extend his contract with Atalanta, which ends in the summer of 2027, and put all other offers on pause for the sake of Manchester. The Bergamasks initially asked £45 million for him, but due to the tough position of the player, MU will close the deal much cheaper. The head coach of the Italians after the last match of the season generally openly admitted that Ederson did not get into the squad purely because of transfer negotiations. And right there, United parallelly presses Newcastle regarding Tonali, who earns £150,000 a week at St. James's Park, and his contract is valid until 2028. Sandro became an absolute priority #1 for the Mancunians in the internal list, ahead of even Aurelien Tchouameni, due to his crazy experience in the EPL and ideal form. And do you know what is most interesting? The scheme of Carrick now becomes monolithic. Ederson will work as an iron anchor in the deep. Kobbie Mainoo will get full freedom in attack, and Tonali will add aggression, class, and a splendid European mentality to the team. This is a pure management triumph, and the first case in many years when Manchester United acts on the market as an adult, strategic club and not as a panic buyer on the last day of August. Signing 2 elite defensive midfielders who are not yet 27 years old and who are at the peak of their careers, this is not just patching holes. It is creating the backbone of a new team for years to come. In addition, this transfer assault of MU finally drives a nail into the ambitions of Newcastle, which we mentioned in the previous block. The Magpies are forced to sell Tonali and Anthony Gordon due to tight restrictions of financial fair play, and Manchester uses this like a real predator. It seems United will officially return to the big game. The main thing now is, again, not to step on the old rakes and not to stop halfway when there are only a couple of surgical steps left to the dreamed-of squad. Alisson Becker, the best goalkeeper in the world of the last decade, and now one of the hottest transfer stories of the summer. Juventus wants him. Liverpool does not want to let him go. And the player is silent. And this is where everything gets interesting. Let us look at the facts. Liverpool last year activated a 12-month contract extension option, and now Alisson is under contract until the summer of 2027. That is, technically, the club secured itself. But this does not mean that the player will stay. And do you know what is most interesting here? Juventus offers a longer contract, meaning not just come, but be our #1 for years to come. This is a serious statement for a 33-year-old goalkeeper who needs stability. Liverpool, in response, says, "We want to keep you for another year, 1 year, and then we will see." And now attention, 33 years old, market value 16 million euros. He arrived in Liverpool from Roma for 63 million euros in 2018. Major 8 years at Anfield, champion of England, winner of the Champions League, but this season with injuries, missed matches, a rating of 6.7. Not that Alisson, who was in 2019. And Liverpool understands this. Romano says clearly, the club informed the player about the desire to keep him, but only for a year. And only the position of the player can change the situation. That is, if Alisson says, "I want to go to Juventus," Liverpool will not hold him. This is not just a transfer news. This is a question. What is more important for Alisson at the decline of his career? Another year in a top club of the Premier League, or a long-term project in Juventus? Liverpool offers prestige, but not confidence. Juventus confidence, but not that level. I would understand both decisions, but I lean towards him going to Turin. Goalkeepers think about stability, and a year of contract is not stability. We will watch this drama. Zlatan Ibrahimovic now fully manages Milan and makes a total revolution. Yesterday we talked about this in detail. Whoever did not see it, look at the previous episode. Today, specifically, who will head the Rossoneri? Milan has already met with Andoni Iraola in London, personally. And this is where the real struggle begins. Iraola, along with Xavi, tops the list of candidates for the managerial chair in Milan, but the Red and Blacks are clearly not alone here. Crystal Palace has been fighting for him for weeks already and considers itself the favorite in this race. Bayer Leverkusen is also seriously interested. That is, 3 clubs for 1 coach. And everyone wants an answer right now. Why such a queue? Because Iraola has just done the impossible. He led Bournemouth to 6th place in the Premier League and into European competitions for the first time in the history of the club. With a small budget, without stars, but with an idea, an attacking style, proactive football, exactly what all top clubs want right now. And do you know what is most interesting? Crystal Palace themselves admit they expect that Iraola will choose a bigger club. That is, even those who consider themselves the favorite are not sure until the end. Iraola is now in the best negotiating position one can imagine. 3 clubs, free agent, full control over the situation. Milan is prestige and Serie A. Palace is London and a growing project. Leverkusen is the Bundesliga and a championship DNA. I would not hurry in his place. But Milan definitely needs to hurry because such coaches do not stay on the market for long. There are players who are remembered for crazy goals. There are those for a pile of golden trophies. And there is Marc-Andre ter Stegen, who this season achieved a unique and at the same time catastrophic achievement that will forever enter the history of Spanish football. The German goalkeeper managed to win La Liga together with Barcelona and in the same season crash out of it with a bang. In the winter, the Catalans sent their long-term leader on loan to Girona, but instead of a triumphant rescue, the German managed to play only 2 matches before another serious injury. And Girona itself, based on the results of the last rounds, flew out to the Segunda. While they celebrate the championship at the Camp Nou, Marc-Andre returns to Catalonia with the stigma of a loser, where absolutely nobody is waiting for him. And now look at the real trash and subtext, because Barcelona is now simply desperately trying to get rid of its former star. Ter Stegen is bound to the club by a long-term contract until June 30, 2028, and his salary is an astronomical 16.6 million euros a year. In the current hierarchy of goalkeepers of the Blaugranas, the German became only the 3rd number. He cleanly lost the competition to Wojciech Szczesny and the young Johan Garcia. But the worst thing for the club is that Marc-Andre is physically unable to play without damage. From September 2024 to today, he missed almost the entire time due to constant problems with his knee and back. His injury history is no longer just luck or bad luck. It is a closed circle. Knee, back, knee, back. Receiving crazy millions at the level of a top star, sitting in the stands in the status of a 3rd goalkeeper, is a colossal financial burden for the budget of Catalonia. Only rich clubs from Saudi Arabia are ready to take the German, but the goalkeeper himself categorically refuses to go to the Middle East and wants to play exclusively in Europe. My opinion? Ter Stegen now is a maximally tragic figure. Once he really was a top goalkeeper of the world, who for years single-handedly kept Barca afloat and won big trophies for it, but now injuries have simply multiplied his elite career by 0. No European club in its right mind will sign a hospital goalkeeper with a salary of 16.6 million euros just to pay for his endless and expensive stay in the infirmary. The Catalans found themselves in a dead end. Marc-Andre will sit in deep reserve for another 2 years unless the management forces him to terminate the contract. Because in European football, he, as it is regrettable, is no longer needed absolutely by anyone.